He does. He's impressed me, Daniel. I must admit, probably more than I expected. As I say, still very early days, but when we take the debut, the European game in Bergen, at the equation, it's been a decent start for him. And I agree with Jacko. I think the biggest encouragement of all of the kind of Danny Rohl start at Rangers has been you can see there's a buy-in there for players that just didn't feel as if it was there under Russell Martin. These players are in this system now. They look as if they know what the idea is. They know what they're trying to do, what they're trying to achieve. They know where they're meant to be on the pitch. I think the players probably even sense that this shape suits them even as individual players more. And as Jacko says, at the end, when they're digging in and they're trying to make sure they go over the line and get that clean sheet, that must be really encouraging for the manager and for the supporters to see that. As I say, I think just in terms of the system, I agree with everything that Keith said there. And I think just simplifying it even more, what this system gives them is more players in each box, defending and attacking, which was lacking before. They were giving away far too many chances because they didn't have enough bodies back. And yet when they did get forward into decent attacking areas, there was nobody in the box. I think this system allows them to do that. Getting two guys.
But he'll change it again, Scott.
It will.
He'll change it again. Now, I don't know. He might not change it again for the weekend. But he said that he is not a guy who's dictated to by, this is the way that I play the game, this is the way that I see the game being played. He changes it from game to game, from opponent to opponent. I think that he probably keeps something very similar for the Celtic game? Probably I do. But you don't know with Danny Rohl. And I think that's possibly a good thing in terms of, we've seen these managers with a very set in stone ideas about principles and how the game ought to be played. That's fine, but everybody knows then what they're going to come up against. I think there's an element. I think maybe Hibs, I don't know if they're expecting a 4 at the back last night, but it was the 3 or the 5 or whatever you want to describe it. I think that's not a bad thing to let the opposition try and work out what it is that they're going to come up against. And I think that it was only during the game at half-time that Hibs got more of a tactical feel for how best to combat it. The one thing I'll say though, Scott, right, and this is, so having said all this, right, and having said about, I can see more of a bond, more of a solidarity, a unity between the players, more of a willingness to work and fight and scratch for each other. And I find that impressive. And the reason that I find it impressive is I'm not sure, and you said it there that Danny Rohl talks well, and he doesn't light a fire in anybody's belly, does he? I mean, he doesn't look to me to be a real inspirational character. Quite a quietly spoken kind of.
Aye, I know what you mean.
Not an imposing character. Or
he could be totally different.
He could be totally. But Scott, I mean, you've actually sat with him. Am I right? Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. He is quite quiet and quite kind of collected. But what that tells me in terms of getting 2 victories and looking at the last 2 performances, what that tells me is players must be really impressed with him tactically and what he's drumming into them. I mean, I remember speaking to Barry Bannon a few weeks ago. Just obviously, I can't remember if it'd already been appointed or it was just before it, but I remember him saying the very first meeting he had with the Sheffield Wednesday players, this young German coach who they'd never really heard of, never worked with before, and he said after that first meeting, players came out of that meeting and he admitted, he says, when we went into the meeting, we're thinking, what's this going to be like? No, wait here what this guy says, that kind of cynicism. He says when they walked out of that room, they thought, "Oof, this guy knows his stuff. This guy's good." And the other thing he said was that when I put it to him that Rangers supporters might see it as just another Russell Martin type appointment, the first thing he said was, "No, he's different because he's far more adaptable." And that goes back to what you're saying about changing tactics, changing shape. Bannon said he won't just stick to. He's got principles, obviously, but he won't just stick a rigid formation or a system, irrespective of the opponent or the occasion or the venue or whatever. He will look at the opposition, look at what he's got available in his own team, and devise a plan for that particular game. Now, he's come up with a system after watching one game in Bergen and a couple of training sessions. He's completely changed it and decided, no, this shape, this formation suits these players better. And I agree. I think he will stick with it on Sunday, because I think the players are enjoying it. I think it's causing opposition problems, and he'll try and do the same to Celtic. But I agree with you, Jack. I think if it's not going well after half an hour at Hampden, he'll just switch it. No, he won't to go back to a back four. He spoke about that last night, saying although it's a 3, because of the players they've got, the likes of Tavernier, Aarons, Magoma, it can easily go to a 4 if they need to. So I agree with you. He's pretty quiet. Is he inspirational in terms of you think a team talk, being loud and getting players up for it? It doesn't strike me as that type either. Maybe that's the role the couple of assistants that he's brought in. But what that tells me is these players have been really impressed early on with what he's doing tactically, the ideas that he's putting into them. Because, as you say, to get that bond back and that togetherness and that kind of synergy, to do that in less than 2 weeks, I think it's a decent achievement.
Good start. Yeah. It's a good start. I'm fascinated, Scott, because the early indicators from last night, from Martin O'Neill's first game back at Celtic, a lot more energy, a lot more intensity, a lot more direct. All the things that we've just talked about with the changes that Danny Rohl's trying to bring into Rangers, and it really sets up. I have no idea how that. And I did say to you last night I was going to try and think about it and come up, and I'll put my hands up. I do not have the foggiest idea how this game goes.
Well,
but I'm really interested, because for the things there and the things that I've just said to Scott about Danny Rohl, is this guy a big enough character for this environment? Is he going to thrive in this, or is he going to wilt in it? We know that Martin O'Neill's got to thrive in it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What's Danny Rohl going to be like when he's out there in the middle of the mayhem,
the eye of the storm
of an Old Firm semi-final 50-50 split at Hampden? That's going to give you, I think, a real good indicator as to whether or not this is going to work for him in the long term. And it's going to give us the exact same thing with Martin O'Neill. Is this something that you should have given up 20 years ago, or is he still right in the thick of it, and right up for the battle the way that he was before he left 20 years ago? So much to learn from this game.
You're totally right.
And by the way, Scott, what I would say is, see that last one, the one that 0-0, stick it in the bin, never watch a game of football if that's what you're getting again.
No chance.
What I do predict is
I don't want to give it the kiss
the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. I think you're right about Rohl. It'll be about how he handles the whole thing on Sunday, because it will be a first for him. I mean, look, he's managed. We all know he's coached with Hansi Flick at Bayern Munich and winning Bundesligas and the Champions League 2000. He coached that World Cup as part of the Germany backroom team as well. So he's been in big environments before, not been big pressure games. But as you say, when you're the man, you're standing that touchline at Hampden and maybe things are going against you, that's when we're really going to see how calm and collected he is in terms of his decision making with this team and the tactics. If, for instance, Rangers go behind in the game and Celtic are on top, what does he do to change it? How does he change the flow of the game? That's where obviously managers really earn their calm.